Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 74 of Two Boys, One Plate. My name is Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dean Haspiel. What do you mean,
So,
two boys, one plate?
well, you remember Two Girls, One Cup, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now you put it on a plate. At least it was contained to a
No, no, no,
cup.
no, no, no. Don't you remember your story from Where Do Babies Come From?
Where babies come from.
Yeah.
Wait. Why is there two boys now? I hope it's
Well,
because you've been now
because now it's us. It's two
ingratiated.
boys. Yeah,
It,
I'm
it
involved.
is, it is us. You know, you remind me of, you know what an upper decker is?
Yes, I do. I've actually seen somebody do one.
Okay. Wow. So for the people who don't know what an upper decker is, and I've never seen anyone do it, I've never been the recipient of the action, but apparently it's when you lift up the back of the toilet bowl
The
and you
lid.
take a dump in that and then cover it up. It's like a fun party trick. And then, you flush the toilet every time you flush, it's just horrific brown water
Yep.
constantly. So that's fun. But I was told because you're in Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
have you ever heard of a Pittsburgh platter?
Is that the same as a Cleveland steamer?
Okay, then I'm going to let you explain that. Maybe
Okay.
so.
A Cleveland steamer is basically you take a poop on a glass table,
And
and
someone's underneath it
underneath it. Right.
watching the art of that,
This is
right?
supposed to be sexy, by the way. Like that's the crazy part. Not the upper decker necessarily. That's just a prank. But like,
It's a fetish or something, right? For
yeah,
somebody, whatever.
yeah,
So sexy? No.
sexy something. I don't know.
So
It's hard to
thank
it's
you.
hard to parse. Sexuality is a spectrum. We can all agree.
Sure, absolutely, of course.
So is
Um,
so then
so
fetishism would be too.
so we're in my, if you're looking at me on the video version, where I'm still at Yaddo, and this is the studio that was assigned me to work in. But I've been doing a lot of writing though in my bedroom, which also has a desk that looks out at part of Yaddo, which is beautiful. And I think it's just better for me to I have a better, I think, internet connection here in the studio,
Hmm.
which is right next to the office kind of thing. I'll talk about my week a little bit. I've been very creative. I just want to talk about you first. What have you been doing in the last week?
Well, I just came back from Three Rivers Comic Con
Yep.
on Sunday afternoon. Well, Saturday and Sunday was the show, and then I got back to Sunday evening. Saturday, as Dean can attest, was rough because I kept texting Dean, and then he called me and we talked and stuff. But Sunday was very busy for some reason. I can only guess that it's because the Pride Parade was on Sunday, so there was more people in the area. Although next year they're going to move the show to, I think, 2 weeks after the Pride Parade. So there might just be a more concentrated effort to bring people in for just a convention instead of like just, hoping for foot traffic. There's also, I've seen videos from New York of the hurricane winds that happened Saturday afternoon. We got that in droves on Saturday afternoon as well. There was a concert that was canceled for Saturday for a country music singer. I'm going to put it all in quotes because there's also talk that Morgan Wallen, who is deeply racist, deeply homophobic country music singer, had a pretty big show on Friday, and he had a two-night show. Uh, Saturday was canceled because they said it was because of rain, but apparently he had already left, before they even made the announcement. So he's a real piece of shit. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, it was a good time. I got to talk to my buddy Dirk Manning, who I think we're going to have on the show sometime in July, probably during uh, Comic Con week, since
Okay.
everybody else would be away. But
And Dirk recently became, was it editor in chief of Source
became
Point Press?
publisher of Source Point Press, and so we're going to talk
Oh,
to him about that. So we were talking a little bit. I want to show you. I showed Dean one of these via text. A couple of the pickups that I got while I was there. First off, this one that I sent to Dean. Like, I don't. I haven't opened this yet. I haven't read. I probably read this comic years ago, if not.
Don't forget to say what it is for the listeners.
Yeah, it's the New Teen Titans number 22. It's got the Titans falling like they're in miniature, and Brother Blood is standing there, and it says, "Call him Brother Blood." Not for nothing. How about cover blurbs being so obvious back then? Like,
But it's not. I'll tell you why. Because for the new person that's picking up New Teen Titans number 22, you said,
yep,
um, who is that guy in front of these people?
yeah,
Call him
that's
Brother Blood. He's got a cool name, so say it. Say
it's
it
not
loud and
even
proud.
his name is good, and don't get me wrong, but the design by George Perez just takes it
Yeah.
another notch. And it's such a I like I said, I was just looking at the George Perez stuff, and I was just like, oh, I love doing George Perez homages during, for Stray or for the Golden Guard. Mostly I like to do Jerry Ordway homages for Golden Guard because that's who I associate All-Star Squadron, Golden Guard and stuff. So with Stray, I always look at New Teen Titan stuff, and that's such a compelling cover. I just didn't like
It's
it.
a great design, the cover, and it's funny because I blame George Perez for Image Comics
Yeah,
because the way he would design characters, sometimes after a while, you're like, I got to draw that guy every panel or every other
yeah.
panel.
So
And then,
the
yeah.
next, just to take that a little further, the next one is the New Teen Titans number 34, and it's got Deathstroke the Terminator basically shooting at a poster of the Teen Titans. I think this might have been a cover, like a prior
Mm,
cover, and he's
mm,
shooting at the cover from behind.
destroying the Teen Titans. Yeah, yeah,
And it
yeah.
says Trouble is spelled Terminator up here in the
I
cover art.
mean,
And then down here's
TT.
my favorite, the new DC. There's no stopping us now.
Nope, you're not gonna stop us now. Whatever the hell that means,
Uh,
right? Like that might have been maybe that was also taken from like a sports commercial or something.
Ain't no stopping us
Or
now.
then there's that.
The Brothers Johnson, I think, did that song. Then the next two are two All-Star Squadron covers, All-Star Squadron issues that Jerry Ordway did the cover for that I actually did homage for the Golden Guard. The first one is issue number 20, which
Mm,
has the Green Lantern, Alan Scott, uh, in Japan, either Hiroshima or Nagasaki. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't read the issue in a while. And just like a pained expression. And we homaged that for issue 2 of the Golden Guard. And then issue
nice.
3 of the Golden Guard, we homaged uh, issue 26, which is this guy right here, All Star Squadron, has the Flash leading Robin, Phantom Lady, Johnny Quick, Wildcat, and the Guardian. And it says, "Okay, Ultra, here we come," meaning Ultra Humanite, I believe. And then at the
Okay.
bottom, you have Infinity Inc. Cameos in this issue. I love this. I love this cover. It's just one of my favorite. I mean, obviously, you got Robin and Wildcat, two of my favorite characters, but just the idea, like how you split the cover, and you have this big image, and then you have like these little heads around there. The
Oh, I love
heads,
the old school. Yeah, the
yeah,
heads
heads on
popping.
covers is an old school thing. Like I think it
But
stopped in
it's
the 80s.
it's funny because like whenever I see like Wildcat or a character like the Fox who don't have superpowers essentially,
Mhm.
and like how irresponsible it is for that super team to let one person on there that doesn't have a superpower. But then
There's
there's
a child
Batman
on that cover.
and there's a child. That's right. Like it doesn't make sense. And it's funny, I watched a movie last night called Messiah of Evil from 1973. Check out the trailer. It's a great movie. It's like an art house horror movie. I was joking it was the first A24 movie before A24 kind of
Uh,
a thing. But there was a lot of movies like that. And then the discussion after we watched the movie, because it was kind of brilliant, but slow paced a little bit,
you
but
watched it
always
with other folks from
we
Yaddo?
watched with other people at the media room last night
Oh,
during the rainstorm, which was perfect, movie night kind of atmosphere. But we then started talking about the substance and sinners,
hmm.
and I'm sitting next to like a Tony Award winning, Pulitzer Prize winning, composer, playwright, who had done a famous musical a few years ago, right? And we were just talking about how like yes, Sinners was good, or he didn't like Sinners. I thought Sinners was okay, and I had issues with the substance. But part of the issues are that I was thinking, oh, those are like movies that were made in the 80s, but with a bigger budget
Mm,
and more of a, let's say, more of a statement, let's say, right? Although I think the substance fails in its statement, where Sinners kind of pushes it in a direction, kind of overplays it a little bit. But that's a different discussion. So we were talking about that, and then it occurred to me, yeah, if you were to make some of these leaps in the higher budget horror films we have in lower budget terms, you're very forgiving because you think, oh, it's a schlocky movie, you
right.
know. But when you add all the star power and the monies to have your really slick special effects, then you start questioning the story a little bit more, if
Mm.
that makes sense. The
That-
gravitas of the story, So it's kind of interesting in that. And these are the kind of conversations we could have, whether it's among other artists or just not. It's always fun to discuss because you're always trying to articulate what you like and don't like about something,
right.
and then how that improves or confirms what you're doing as a writer artist of
Mm.
sorts. So
So
um
I got a couple
yeah.
more comics to show. There's one comic that I left in my car, which is the Daredevil #1 from Stephanie Phillips.
Oh, okay.
That just came out a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
It was one of the blind bag ones, and it ended up being
Mm.
opened by the guy that sold it. And it's a chromium cover. It's really cool. It's just that I left it in
Mm.
the car. I have never read this comic. This is the very last issue of All Star Squadron, number 67, and it has all of the team, mostly the JSA, not really the All Star Squadron. All Star Squadron was like the offshoot team that included every Golden Age DC character, whereas the JSA was specific.
And JSA actually came out in the Golden Age, right?
Yeah,
And also Squadron is a 80s comic, right?
right. Based off of All Star Comics, where a lot of the those characters debuted and stuff. So this one is last issue landmark, but interestingly, the first case of the Justice Society. So again, here's the JSA.
Mm.
They're running or flying away from the Capitol building. And during our texting on Saturday, I mentioned Arvell Jones. Oh, my wife was so nice to have brought the Daredevil that I
Oh, that's so sweet. There it is. Wow.
yeah, it's a really nice cover. I'll
It
show it
really is.
a
I can see the
little bit.
chromium glare.
Yeah, that's tough. But Arvell Jones, we were like talking about these like Ron Wilson, Mark Bright, Arvell Jones, like these very I think almost all of them black, except for we mentioned Kerry Gamble. They were all these kind of journeyman, um, really solid superhero comic book artists. And
Hmm.
the term I used is a wrestling term where a lot of wrestlers try to achieve this level of, I wouldn't say notoriety, but this level of accomplishment where they're being called a good hand, which means
Hmm.
you're good in the ring, you're crucial to the production of the product. And I think
Right.
that's what Arvell Jones, um, Ron Wilson,
Hmm.
somebody else who we mentioned, but like just like those guys don't like. There's a point where those guys got kind of relegated to the back seat when the image guys started coming in because
Well, Image, but
that
before
was
Image,
so
it was George
dynamic.
Perez. It was George Perez, John Byrne. You would know who could like elevate a comic. But I always had a soft spot for Ron Wilson,
Yeah.
because he drew The Thing, my favorite character. So, and also a cool guy. I've met him. I barely have anybody, other artists' original art,
Mm.
but I have two drawings of The Thing by Ron Wilson.
Oh wow.
So when I
Yeah.
see him in Baltimore, I tend to buy something from him if I can,
Yeah. And
So
the you could also make the argument that Jerry Ordway is another good hand. Like just somebody that's just so like integral to like we got to the point where we wanted dynamism, which is what
hmm
got I would say Rob Liefeld through the door. But we also
hmm
forget about Jim Valentino. Jim Valentino, I think, is one of those guys. Like
hmm
very solid, very
hmm
I don't think that I don't want to say that he's not dynamic, but
hmm
the Keith Pollard was the other name that we mentioned.
Keith Pollard I mentioned, and like, but and in some ways, and this is such a weird conversation because like when we're kids, we like our favorites, and
Yeah,
they do pop a little bit more. Like for me, in some ways, I used to attribute John Byrne as my introduction to Jack Kirby because even though I saw
makes
Jack Kirby,
sense.
I didn't know what Jack Kirby was, and then John Byrne is kind of paying homage to Kirby throughout his entire career, and then you're like, well, what's the source material? You go, let me check out Jack Kirby, and Jack Kirby is 10 times more dynamic than John Byrne,
Right,
but John Byrne had this art style that was a little more like not neo-realistic, but a little more realistic than Jack Kirby.
right.
But then you get older, you're like, oh, I like the weird Jack Kirby stuff more,
Yeah,
you know?
I think
So
I think
and then we have
too.
our yeoman, our journeyman that you talk about that, bust out that monthly comic. But I would say Jerry Ordway is up there with Byrne
Yeah,
in terms,
absolutely. He's top of the
yeah.
line. It's just
Yeah.
he never he never. I would say in terms of work rate, another wrestling term. Steve
Mm,
Durfield's going to really like this episode. In terms
mm.
of work rate, Walt Simonson is a journeyman, but Walt is dynamic.
And
Same thing.
stylized in
Yeah.
the same, like not like Kirby, but as stylized as Kirby,
Same
right?
with
But
Howard
then I
Chaykin.
would, and
Howard,
Shaken completely another like throw a curveball, like
you
that
know, and
guy's not doing
what I'm
anything that
saying is
anybody
that
else is
they
doing.
don't draw like anybody else. Like they don't
Right,
look like anybody else. But when
right.
you have like your Ron Wilsons, your Keith Pollards, there are like differences. Ron Lim is another good one, who
Mm,
has that Kirby-ish kind of vibe to a lot of his cosmic work, like on Silver Surfer and stuff. But he's
mm,
so dependable and so solid. He pitched in when Perez he started doing Infinity Gauntlet, then he had to cop out because I think he got a Wonder Woman gig at
mm,
DC. So Ron Lim finished the book. So it's
mm,
like he's got that dynamism, but the same thing is he can just be a solid hand, and I really am starting to appreciate that now as I'm getting
mm.
older than I did probably as a kid because I wanted dynamism. I wanted John Byrne. I wanted George Perez. I wanted, Walt Simonson, Jim Lee.
Right,
But
right.
like, your Mark Sylvester's, your Jim Valentino's, your Jerry Ordway's, like those guys, I think, they were just below the dynamic one and just above like the journeyman one, but they're somewhere in the
And
ether.
previous to them, it'd be more like, although when you revisit their work, you see the brilliance, but like a Kurt Swan, Jim Aparo, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
journeyman, they busted out. They were dependable, which I swear if somebody ever said, what I like about Dean's art? What? It's dependable.
Would you take that as a
I'd be
compliment?
like, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I
but
wouldn't.
but you get the compliment behind it, right?
I do understand,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's funny because there used to be a car tire called Dependable Dean. And it was like something like Dependable Dean. You can't spell dependable without Dean. I was just like, what are you talking about? I guess you do need those letters in that
Yeah.
word, but like, okay, you were stretching it for that commercial song. No, I know what you mean because in a way, what you're saying is, we can be fickle fans,
Yeah.
and when we're younger, and like the reasoning behind why you might pick up one comic over another. And they were like, wasn't there a guy named Jose Delbo?
Yes.
And I remember, like, for some reason, he just pops in my head as someone I'd be like, don't want to read this comic. But then, like, again, a journeyman. They told the story.
Yeah.
They got
And I
published.
think that's the thing that we forget is that you're telling stories no matter what.
And
And
what I'm getting at is storytelling. Like the art may not be as dynamic. Like Don Heck drew a better romance comic than he did a superhero comic.
right.
Um, but it was still he still told the story well.
I do like
And
do like my Don Heck Iron Mans though.
yeah, with Johnny Craig inks, I think,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like kind of like toward the latter part of his career, post DC Comics.
I cannot tell who did this. There's no credits on the inside, and the problem with these blind bag ones,
You're
for
talking about Daredevil #1,
Daredevil number
just for
one,
everyone listening.
it's impossible to put. There's so many like because it's a blind bag. There's so many variables that you can't really, all these different artists did covers, so it's hard to say exactly who did this.
And I think like there are like 50 of those or something.
Yeah, so I
You keep
apologize.
mentioning, yeah, you keep mentioning Blind Bag, and I just saw a report on the beat today that apparently Skybound is in the blind bag game. All
Yeah, they're
right,
doing the
so they've
ROM.
done this. They just released ROM number one. I guess they have the license to ROM, and Robert Kirkman's writing it, of Walking Dead fame and Invincible fame, and I think they did a blind bag with the Transformers,
Mhm.
and I believe. Well, this wasn't a blind bag, but I remember. Did I ever tell you this story, Vito, about The Walking Dead?
When you
So I
cover,
wrote no, I wrote Charlie Adler to see if they could put a Red Hook ad, I think it was for Volume 2, Warcry,
mhm,
in one of the back pages of Walking Dead because a lot of people pick up Walking Dead. And I was like, well,
right?
maybe they'll see my ad,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know. And he wrote me back saying, because I want to know an upcoming issue. And he goes, oh, yeah, there's not going to be any more issue. And then he realized he fucked up because he spilled the beans to me that they were pretending that there was going to be they were soliciting future issues of Walking Dead, but they were actually ending it and they weren't going to tell anybody
Wow,
until people bought that comic and realized it was the last issue of Walking Dead.
that's
So I had to hold on to this secret, and I was sharing a studio with Kari Randolph and
yeah,
like a
yeah.
whole bunch of the people that are in image, alumni, as it were. In fact, Kari drew a Robert Kirkman comic called Tech Jacket or
Tech Jacket,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Kari and
Anyway,
Robert are very close, actually.
so we got to get Kari on here. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I remember I might have told Kari, and I was like, "Yo, like they're ending Walking Dead," and then of course I felt bummed. I was like, "I'm not going to get an ad in Walking Dead," but
Yeah.
or maybe I did. I don't remember. I might have gotten into it to another comic, but I just remember I was like, "What a giant secret!" So anyway, they're continuing to do this. They veered into this blind bag thing,
Mhm.
which is kind of interesting, but it's also like and it's helping out the comic shops, right? But it's also like to me, it's that collector mentality thing, like
Yeah,
are they buying
that's
it
not for
for
me.
are they gonna read the ROM? I assume, and it's funny when I was younger, ROM wasn't my jam.
No.
ROM became more interesting to me later for some reason. I don't really know why. Maybe because the origin of ROM is that, like Star Wars, Marvel was doing a licensing agreement or whatever, and apparently ROM was going to be a toy, and then the
Well, he was.
toy
My cousin had one.
they manufactured, but then they never did anything beyond like the initial manufacturing of it, right?
It
And then the
was a
comic
weird
series,
toy about uh this big. I would say about 13 inches, and it was bulky
yeah,
and stuff.
it
Uh,
was a taller toy. I remember
yeah,
seeing it before, and then when it did its own thing, and then they would do crossovers of Rom, where Rom would appear in other comics like Power Man and Iron Fist, and then when
mhm,
they would do collections of Power Man and Iron Fist, that would be the one issue they would not put in there because then
right.
they lost the rights to publish Rom. So it's very strange when they make these
They made
deals.
they had the X-Men fighting the Dire Wraiths, which were
Right,
villains from Rome. And I think
right.
because Marvel created those, they were allowed to kind of just spread them around, whatever.
Mm,
But
mhm,
I never really
mhm.
like Rom wasn't my thing either.
Bill Mantlo, Sal Buscema,
Evan
basically.
Dorkin apparently did an issue, and so
Oh,
it became a thing that whenever we got his issue at Jim Hanley's universe, Jim Hanley would buy it. So he had I swear to God, like 30 copies of it in a drawer in the office.
just to
Just
smack
to,
Evan around with?
basically just to mess with Evan, yeah.
That's
Um,
funny. They and then
yeah,
they had like some interesting inkers over Sal. Later in life, I really appreciate Sal's full line art,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think that Aiken and Garvey, what the Ian Aiken and somebody Garvey would ink, they would they kind of look like Michael Golden-esque type art style. I might be getting this completely wrong. But where I wanted to go though with the blind bag thing is, do you know what I think the next blind bag might be from Skybound?
Well, they just announced that Skybound might be taking over the Gold Key comics, so maybe like a Solar Man of the Atom
Or
or
Magnus Robot Fighter or
yeah,
Turok. And what's interesting is that you and Charlie McKelvey were trying to hatch a plan of like, I guess, approaching the people who own the licenses of those characters. And then you wrote me into it a little bit and you're like, Dean, we think you could do, I think you guys, what were you and Charlie going to do?
I had Solar, Charlie had Magnus, and
And
we
you
were,
wanted me to do Turok, and then
yeah,
I was like, I don't know if I want to do Turok, and I looked around, and they had this interesting character named Samson,
Mighty Samson,
right?
yeah,
Wait, what?
Mighty Samson, I think
The
technically.
Mighty Samson,
Yeah,
right? And it really intrigued me to the point where I went on eBay and I bought the first three of four volumes of that entire series,
yeah,
you know, and I started reading it, and it's not great, but it was not bad, you know. And in fact, it kind of reminded me of like John Carpenter movies or something, you know,
yeah. You
like
had mentioned that, yeah. Like there's
yeah,
some
and
kind of like Mandy meets John Carpenter or something like that.
yeah, something. And then I would have had maybe a take on that had we done a pitch,
Mhm.
sold it, got it. But of course, that never materialized. And then you hear like Kirkman. So it seems like Skybound is picking up a lot of different licenses, you know, to
Yeah,
perpetuate.
licenses are the way to go. My Solar character, the character that I am renaming uh, from that pitch, is going to show up in the Purple Heart story that I'm doing for Strayverse, like for my Strayverse anthology. Speaking of
Yeah,
anthology, All
yeah,
Star All Star Comics 80-page giant. This is a anthology. Michael Lark cover. Look at that, Dean.
that's awesome.
There's our boy.
Is that another $5 purchase?
Yeah,
You know?
$5. But yeah, I'm gonna probably introduce him into that story, somewhere down the road. I know what the first quote unquote arc is, and it's
Hmm.
basically just like a one shot, just broken up
Hmm.
over 8 pages in three
Hmm.
chapters. So it's a 24-page story.
Have you told me the name of this character? I mean,
Um,
like
I
off
think
podcast.
I think not. I think the only person I told was Charlie and maybe Matt Major, who designed the character. It's a very nice design. Doesn't look like Solar, so like it's definitely going to get,
Right,
you know, I'll definitely be able to use it. But
right.
yeah, I just kind of I don't like letting things, sit, without, exploring the
Well,
opportunity.
especially if you like the idea. Like, so
Yeah.
what I have on a list here just to talk about a little bit is a few things. I want to get another news item out of the way.
Oh, one more thing before we go.
Yeah.
I picked this up. This is an action figure set of the Black Knight and Cersei in their 90s Marvel comics in the 90s put every
Mm,
character in a jacket for some reason.
really?
Like it was so weird. And like it was like the price of like this box set was the price of like one figure. I was like, yeah, I'll get two for the price of one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I love the Black Knight. So
Right.
one of
And
my
those
favorites.
are action figures.
Mhm.
So and then I'm going to do another news item or two, and then I'm going to talk about some stuff I've read and seen, and then what I'm working on. And then
Mhm.
I mean, obviously you can. I just don't want to forget these things here. So did you see that former Dark Horse Comics publisher Mike Richardson, who's 75, is opening a pop culture museum in Milwaukee
Milwaukee,
from his
Oregon.
personal collection?
I
You
did.
know,
It's very Steve Jeppy of him.
it is and it isn't. I feel like with Mike Richardson, like I would like to see that pop culture museum. I would like
Yeah,
to,
sure.
I mean, Steve Jeppy also had access to so much stuff, but I just feel like they're completely different human beings when
Oh,
it
they are.
comes
I mean, that
to
good
pop culture,
for
like
sure. But it's just the idea that the Jeppy Museum, which I think has since closed down for the past
right.
5 years in the like pre-Diamond going bankrupt. I'm not sure if he liquidated those assets to kind of pay debts, but
Sure,
pretty
sure.
sure it closed down. Like it was starting. I remember going to Baltimore and going, "Oh, we should go over to the museum." They're like, "No, the museum's not there anymore." So,
Mm. I also feel like Mike Richardson is a true tastemaker.
oh yeah,
From Dark Horse Presents alone, what it contributed to comics, and then all the series and the licenses they had,
I mean, there's probably a lot of early editions of manga. You know what I mean? Like because Dark Horse was one of the first proponents of manga in America. Um,
Hmm.
so there might be like artwork from like Otomo
Hmm.
or um,
Oh, he'll have all, and he has like movie set props as
yeah,
well,
yeah.
apparently, like that are amazing. I remember I've seen him a few times. I'll say hi, I remind him Dean Haspiel. He seems to know who I am. But I had like a really long talk with him one time in his office at Dark Horse when I went to go visit Henneman Shannon was working at as an editor,
Yeah.
and she invited me. And I think there might have been a con around that. I forget what was going on as well. Maybe it was an Image Comics thing. I can't remember. And I went into the town where the offices are, and it seemed like Dark Horse owned half the buildings. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it
Like
was
that
it
building
was
specifically,
insane.
like they had Things from Another World, which was their comic store franchise,
Right.
which I believe also just they just announced that it was closing down. But
Mm.
like so like that was across the street if I remember, if not
I think
that
so.
building.
And then I remember going in there and I saw Diana Schutz, who I've known forever, and she worked on American Splendor when I did some American Splendor comics. But and he sat me down in the office and we were just talking, and he just seemed to have an affection for me. And at one point he said, "You know, I'm having a problem with a story idea. Maybe you can help me solve it." I think I told you this.
Yeah.
And then basically tells me this 20-minute story, and I had no idea how to solve it. I was like, and I think I attempted to, and then I realized I don't know what I'm talking about, like, and I couldn't tell if it was a hazing, a test, or
Yeah, yeah.
is he messing with me because there is no ending or answer to this idea, like and I wish I could remember what it was. But yeah, I felt like I failed him, but everything was cool. So I'm curious. I look forward to him. That's what you do, man. You take all the stuff you've collected over the years, and maybe you make a museum out of it,
I don't think everybody can do that. I think he's one of the
No,
few
of course
that
not.
probably could. Jeanette Kahn, maybe even Paul Levitz could. Um,
Hmm.
Not,
Oh, Chip Kid.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's more because of, not the fact that you've lived an interesting life or you were in comics at a very interesting time, but mostly because you were on the ground level of some incredibly groundbreaking things. And I
Hmm.
think that in and of itself makes you a witness to history in a sense, but a tastemaker in another sense, like you were saying. So I think,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know if I revere him and I admire him a lot, but I don't know that Bob Schreck could do something like that. Maybe because he feels things are. I feel like he might hold things precious, like instead of
Yeah,
like,
I don't know, but I mean, Bob Schreck is another great editor.
yeah,
Uh, was such a champion for indie comics, being
yeah.
in mainstream comics, including me. Like he's always a sweetheart.
He gave me
It's
the time
interesting,
of day, which was crazy because I didn't. Who was I? You know what I mean? And
but
he,
that's the kind of guy he was. Because
yeah,
who are you? Tell me, bring it on.
yeah.
Kind of. So there was. I wanted to bring up the Dark
Good
Horse.
luck to Mike Richardson,
Blind,
I'd say.
oh yeah. Um, Blind bags are interesting because in a weird way, when I think of blind bags, I also think about when I would go to a big box store back in the day, and there was the Charlton Comics three bag,
Yeah, yeah.
three comics per bag. So you saw what two of them were, but what was in the middle,
Some
you know? And I
dopey,
remember always kind of trying to get a little bit. There wasn't enough wiggle room to get like a title or anything. You might get some color
like a
or something.
dopey Sugar and Spike comic or something.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
But
Sugar and Spike has their fans. I'm not calling it dopey.
of
To me,
course,
like
just
I was not particularly
yeah, we weren't the
the
fans.
audience.
So I'm going to get into a couple of things I've been indulging. Like I mentioned, Messiah of Evil, which is great. Um, I've seen the first three episodes of Spider Noir.
I saw the first one, but I don't know how not willing. I'm willing, but how soon I'll get to watch the rest of it because like it was okay.
It's no rush, okay?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. I don't feel a rush to keep watching it because each episode actually gets more and more rich with like scenes but I don't know if you noticed a certain actor in there. Not that I have a reverence for him, but I've always found him to be kind of interesting. But I mean, okay, Spider Noir is starring Nicolas Cage, has a lot of really good actors in it. It kind of has, as the story moves along, it kind of has a Sin City vibe, I have to
Mhm,
say.
mhm.
The black and white version. You can see it in color black and white. Watch it in black and white. It's a noir. And again, good actors, good situations. Nicolas Cage starts to become more Nicolas Cage as the story goes,
I mean,
and that's kind of
he's
why
starting off at 9, man.
he started off nine, but he keeps going.
He's
So,
going to
and in a
11.
way, that's what the show becomes, like, him. And first, when I heard his voice, I was like, is he doing Jack Kirby?
Or
Like,
Edward G. Robinson.
and like, it's such a combination of all of those guys,
Yeah.
right? And also big ups to Fabrice Sapolsky, who we know, who's one of the co-creators of Spider Noir, that I believe does not get a credit, or
Yeah,
no one gets
I think
credited.
he's been burned by it, so he's like,
Yeah, he's
don't,
not
don't
happy,
refer to
but I
me.
hope he's capitalizing somewhat on it because he has his own publishing company, Fair Square
Yeah.
Comics, and he actually just came out with a new Kickstarter that's Black is the New Noir. What is it called? Do you
I think
remember?
that's what it's called.
Something like that, Volume
Yeah.
Two. So let's check that out. So, but the actor that I was like, who is that guy? So there's a right-hand man for one of the bad guys. He's being played by Lucas Haas. Do you know who
Oh
that
yeah,
is? Yeah.
from Witness.
And he's the guy that's kind of bug-eyed and
Mhm.
kind of has a crooked mouth a little bit. Like he doesn't talk crookedly. There's something kind of broken about his face. And I can't
Mhm.
tell if that's his face or if they're doing something, to like make him look. And he's kind of spooky. And I was like, wait a second, that kid is this dude now?
I think he's doing like a Peter Lorre type of thing.
Sure,
Yeah.
something like that. Anyway, I was like, I had to look. I was like looking at the cast, like who's playing this character? I was like, Lucas Haas. Oh
Yeah.
shit. Um, did you read Brian K. Vaughan's and Nico? I don't know how to say his last name.
Henrikin?
Henry Sean's Spectators.
No, I didn't know it had come out. I didn't like.
So it's a Substack comic. So do you remember when Substack gave a lot of money, like $100,000 each to each kind of creative team to make a comic on Substack, so people would.
Specific ones. I think it was Hickman, and I'm not sure who he teamed up with Two Moon.
Kari and his wife, who's why is her name
Joanne.
escaping? Joanne did a comic on Substack.
Let me Joanne Star.
And I'm saying $100,000. That's what I heard. Yeah, Joanne Star.
I just don't.
And
She deserves to have her name, not just Joanne with Kari. She's a
of course, because we know her. Yeah.
Sure everybody.
And then there were like maybe five, maybe James Tinian did one. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, I think he did.
So Brian K. Vaughan and Henrichan,
I think it's
Henry
Henricon.
Henrikin. Okay, that well Chon. I don't know how to say the last part of his name. So they did a comic on Substack called Spectators, and then they got published by print published by I believe Image Comics, and I read everything he writes. So I and actually the artist did the Pride or something of
Yes,
the
right at
Pride.
Baghdad.
Pride of Baghdad, right? Great, another great, heartbreaking graphic
Mhm.
novel. I can't describe this book,
Hmm.
Vito. And in fact, I wish I had it with me. The when you open up the book and you see to the left side, like where they talk about what it is, it's two sentences
Okay.
because even they're just like, and it has to do with death and floating around, not necessarily, it's a little bit of wings of desire in that way, you know? It deals with pop culture references. It deals these two characters who meet want to watch a threesome happen. I'm
They're the
not kidding.
titular spectators, I guess.
They exactly the titular spectators, and then how that turns into kind of a love story, and then it's about the end of the world. There's no way really to describe this, and I keep thinking, was this like an HBO pitch that didn't
Hmm.
sell?
Hmm.
Because it's very HBO in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, it sounds like the leftovers in a sense, like
Little leftovers,
prior to the events of that show.
yes, like Wings of Desire meets Leftovers. It was really good. I recommend it, of course.
Is it just a trade or is it a full?
Yeah, now it's a trade and it's pretty thick. It's a hefty. And I think they publish it in a smaller format,
Hmm.
but it's robust,
Okay.
durable. So yeah, I read that, and let me get back to my little list here. And I don't know if you've read any other things or seen things that you want to talk about.
Well, I've seen things, Gene. I've seen
The
things.
things you've seen. I've seen
I watched the Knicks game on Monday where they lost. Thank you to Donald Trump for spreading his voluminous stench all over that. But so
By
I
the
started,
way, are those fart videos real?
I think they are.
I
And
mean, how?
and if they're not, they are now. Because perception is reality. You know what I
Perception
mean?
is reality.
And you put it on the internet, someone's going to say, well, that can't be real. And then somebody's going to be like, I don't know, that looks real. Like, it doesn't sound like it, like it sounds like it's coming from pants. You know, it sounds like a fart coming out of a diaper,
Oh
coming
my
out of your pants. It's got to be real. So perception's reality, man.
It's funny because I sent you one last night, I
Yeah.
think, where a is talking to a robocaller or something, whatever it is. He was going to town. Like it
So
is our little Instagram jihad.
yeah, so
Um,
so they lost on Monday. Um,
yeah.
and last night I started watching game four. Yeah, game four.
Hmm.
And Carl Anthony Towns, who's one of their marquee players, within the first minute of the game got two fouls. And I'm like, I'm not watching because I don't know if I've said this, but I've said it to my wife and she makes fun of me about it. I feel like I'm the one jinxing the team if I watch. So I stopped watching and they win. And what do you know happens last night? I stopped watching and they won. And they the
Wow.
thing is, I saw like I was getting updates on my phone because I follow them, follow the Knicks. And I get updates on my phone for like scores, and I got a score at halftime. I was like, I'm gonna throw up. And I
Yeah.
and I tell you when I tell you this, I mean this sincerely. I had a very uneasy feeling all night, and I couldn't pinpoint what it was. I was like, "Am I supposed to, like? Was there something I was working on? Like, is there like a story that I'm trying to write? Like, I could not figure it out what it was, and I'm pretty sure it was the game. Like, was throwing me off of like whatever, and I was just like, ugh. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I didn't bother to check the phone. I was just like, find out in the morning. You know, woke up this morning to a text from Michelle with a screen grab that said like they overcame a 29-point deficit. I was like, they
Yep.
freaking won. Like I
Yeah.
can't watch ever, ever, ever again.
You're not allowed to watch. You're,
So,
you're
so
you're
thank
missing
New
the
York Knicks for taking away my viewing pleasure
sorry,
or
Vito.
something. I
But
can't watch. I'm the jinx.
I
And
will
it's so
say
stupid.
this.
Let me say this
Hmm.
further. It's so stupid to think that one person affects any of this. You know what I mean? Like I was watching on Monday and I'm just like, no, no, they're down 20 points. They'll make that up. It's just a game. I'm just one guy. I'm not even in the building. How could I affect it?
Hmm.
But superstition, man, is such a head.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it just oh. So I couldn't watch last.
Well, superstition kisses the asshole, the entitled fan
That's
that,
true.
or the one who thinks they can affect a game, like, so, I, unfortunately, I'm not a sports fan, or fortunately,
I was gonna
whatever.
say
Uh,
you're
and,
better off.
and I've already made a statement that I think sports fans are crazier than any comic book fan that, or whatever, celebrity fan. Like when it comes to sports, it's madness. And then I'm being sent videos of like Timothy Chalamet and Ben Stiller like jumping up and down with everybody freaking out and all this stuff, or the celebrities that go to the show and you get to see them hang out with everybody. So and then you see thousands of people in crowds, right? And it's kind of amazing what's happening in New York,
Absolutely, man.
right?
Yeah,
And I'm not there, and in some ways I wish I was there because the spectacle and the camaraderie is amazing. And then the thing that ruins it always are the fans that beat up like a
yeah,
Spurs fan,
yeah. That's
or
so
and I
uncalled for.
cannot believe that. It's so disgusting, and it kind of almost ruins everything when that
Yeah,
kind of thing happens.
it's. I'm going to tell you a story about the time that me and my buddy Chris went to Starcade.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
You're finished. Well, you can help me dig. I'm coming into a huge battle.
Yeah. So, Starcade is a year end or was a year end wrestling pay per view by the World Championship Wrestling when they were in existence. So, me and
Mm,
my buddy Chris, we went down to Washington D.C. to go see Starcade, and we were cheering for the bad guys.
mm,
And we were wearing their shirts. We were, all about the bad guy. They're called the heels in wrestling.
mm.
And that night we watched Hulk Hogan get beat by Sting, It turned out to not be, like they did like a screw job and stuff like that on the following Monday. It was a crazy night. So we're out in the parking lot, and these kids, literally kids, started fighting Chris because we were wearing those shirts. And there was an old black man. I'll never forget this. He leaned into me and he goes, "You need to get your friend out of here now." And I was like,
Mm.
"Let's go." Because he was drinking all night. So like I don't drink as much. So I was like, "Whoop." And like
Get out of here.
and it was
You
like
know, it,
wrestling fans are a different breed, personally speaking, but
right.
it's not far from what happened in New York on Monday night.
But then I think about like, and there's a major difference. I'll tell you the major difference. I think about like let's use an example. When they do like a JLA versus the Avengers comic book, right?
Mhm.
So they have them fight each other, but every time there's any crossover between two companies' teams, you could do X-Men Teen Titans, right?
Mhm.
Ultimately, you might get like somebody might get a few good punches in on one side, and then the other side does that. But ultimately, they join up and they fight the villain together,
Right,
right?
right.
I don't think there's ever been a comic between two companies where Batman beat up the Hulk and won, and that's the end of the issue. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
or
I'll
JLA
take it.
beat up the Avengers, and then that's the end of the comic, the end.
I'll take it
It's
a
been
step
decided.
further. Like, there's never been an outcome where there was that DC versus Marvel, Marvel versus DC, where you got to vote on who won, and there was like I forget who a lot of the matchups were, but I remember specifically Wolverine versus Lobo, and like Wolverine won, because he got a popular vote, like
I
people
don't
voted.
remember this. This was a series of comics.
This was a mini series that led into the Amalgam Comics where they combined. So there was
Of the
DC versus
amalgam.
Marvel, then it went to Amalgam Comics. So Captain America fought, I want to say Batman, maybe even
I
Superman.
think it was Batman. I think it was Captain America, Batman.
So whatever it was, but
I
Wolverine
think you're
fought
right.
Lobo. And the thing is, Lobo can't die. So Wolverine's got a healing factor, and Peter David wrote it, but Peter David didn't, determine the outcomes. That was out, they tell us it was determined by fan vote.
Mm.
Wolverine was more popular than Lobo. So there wasn't like an outcry like where they like DC fans fought Marvel fans, like it's a
Hmm.
comic book. And that's the weird thing about comics is that for all that comics can do, most people just assume that comics are just disposable bullshit entertainment. Like I was sitting at the table over the weekend and just thinking, why wouldn't someone want to spend $5 on a comic when $5 doesn't get you a movie ticket? It doesn't pay your cable bill. It barely buys you lunch. So you assume somebody's buying lunch and going for disposable entertainment. Most paperback novels are in the $15 range. Most
Hmm.
hardcover novels are in the $24 range. Why
Hmm.
wouldn't you spend 20 like $5 just to find out? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it was something I was talking
Yeah.
to you about trying to figure
Well,
about doing a like a $1 stray number one, volume one, number one intro. I'm so glad you're wearing pants. Because you stood up really abruptly, and I'm like,
oh yeah, I'm actually wearing shorts. I'm
oh,
wearing
that's
shorts. Sorry.
I've seen you in shorts. That's fine, but it wasn't like a
And
thong. That
I've
was
never worn shorts. I was taking a picture of my lunch, which I don't know if they can show you. It's like
that's
tomato burrata. It's
yum.
just a delicious looking lunch,
Yeah, man. But
man.
I just like
No, but I'm listening to you. I was going to say the one thing about the $5 purchase for a comic is that if you can get a whole comic book in $5, fantastic. But if it's part of a 9-part story,
right.
I can understand why you're like, I'd rather just buy a slice of pizza.
Buy the whole thing. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I get it. But again, like I was like talking to Charlie about is there a way to do like Stray volume one, number one for $1? He's like, yeah, you'd have to print 1,000 of them, if not a little bit more. And I'm like, I'm going to figure out a way to do this so that I can
Hmm.
just give these away at shows or do it, like
Hmm.
have like because they have like the Image Comics dollar rack. that are like, Copra and Walking Dead. I don't know if Walking Dead,
Mm-hmm.
but I know Invincible was like, just try. Why would it hurt you to try something for $1? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But going
Mm-hmm.
back to the Knicks,
Absolutely. I mean, but I was gonna say I don't know
again,
how like it really is an investment in you're giving it away for $1. You're just trying to get someone hooked.
right.
There's no money in that, like not necessarily.
I just
Like the
find,
profit is hooking someone and
yeah,
hopefully they'll want to read the next one, kind
right.
of thing.
And I think that way. And I know that when I go to a convention, I walk around Artist Alley and I walk past things, and I like, it's personal preference, personal taste.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't buy everything. I would love to.
No,
I would love to give
yep.
everybody a shot and just see what they have. But at the same time, I tend to gravitate towards what I want to, bring home.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I just showed you. There are, there are not a ton of independent creators at these shows. A lot of, at the Three Rivers show, a lot of craft makers. I sat next to somebody who did an anthology. I think it was about drag racing and like gays and stuff. Like it was a very, very interesting looking graphic novel. It was just out of my range, so I ended up buying like a sticker.
Was Jim Rugg there?
No, he wasn't.
Was Jim
Not, he
Don
was
Simpson
not.
though? You saw Don, right?
I did. I saw Don and I talked to him for a little bit. Um, but I just I don't want to disparage all these people that make stickers or anything like that. There's such a niche for it. Like I get it. But God, I want to see more comics at a comic convention. Like I want to be able to peruse and find something that I can't find at a store. I'd much rather, I don't want to use Kickstarter
Well, Kickstarter is kind
as a
of like
method.
where we find our new alternative comics, right? But you're
Yeah,
right. There is then when you go to a show, did they print more than for the backers? Are they dealing with retailers? I'm not yet, and it's funny we're talking about the dollar comic intro kind of thing. I need to get into the store again, man. Like
yeah,
when I was thinking about the blind bag thing or the game, Skybound can afford to do what they're doing and they can get licensed. They prove themselves, like you and I are trying to do our little rinky dink comics,
yeah.
kind of a thing. So I don't know what the answer is yet, and we will keep discussing it on this
Well,
podcast of like,
let's I'm going to take this one step further. So currently, Filbo Distribution is soliciting or has solicited the Stray Steel Wolf #1 comic, which it was a crossover thing that we did on Kickstarter a couple of years ago.
mm-hmm,
I probably have one right here. Yeah, here it is. I think it's this comic cover as well.
cool.
So
That
tell
was
your
cool.
retailer Steel Wolf Stray #1 by G-Man Comics, I believe, is putting it out. And it's there, a lot of retailers don't want to deal with Filbo, and I get it, but at the same time, I'm going to push, anything that I do or anything my
And then
friend.
there's Power Pulp that does the real indie stuff,
Right. So
like almost cult kind of comics in a way.
yeah, so I started like almost like the back of the store comics. If you remember how comic books were
Yep.
once upon a time. So I noticed that G-Man Comics, who does that, they were doing a comic. I forget which one, not necessarily that one, and it had a Filbo logo on the cover. I was like, why are you putting a Filbo logo on the cover? They're the distributor, they're not the publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And Rick over at G-Man was like, sent me a DM, and he's like, well, they're offering this, that, and I was like, but as a creator and a publisher, and a self-publisher, that stinks. Like I can't, I can't like, be eloquent about it, more than that. Like it just feels weird. It doesn't feel right, for them to put their logo on your book, especially
Yeah.
when they're not the publisher. It's like, well, they're doing, I could read the email, but like I'm not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
If we were gonna have a conversation about it, I would just tell Rick to come.
Sure.
But
Yeah, yeah.
I can see why some retailers don't want to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why some publishers, so like small publishers, want to work with them because they are,
Mm-hmm.
making the effort to approach comic stores. And then I talked to Charlie about it. I was like, I'm never putting anybody's logo on my book. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm with you, man.
I don't,
I follow
unless
your
they're
lead.
in, and it's weird because there are these relationships that you have to make between
Right.
distribution, printing. Like, what if, like, I know there was a printer that people use. I think you might have even used them, where they had to get a one-page ad.
Comics Wellspring, yeah. And
Comics Wellspring.
Kablam also does something like that as well.
Yeah.
It's not that they have to. I can't speak for Kablam, but for Comics Wellspring, they're like, we will, if you put an ad in, we'll take money off of the print.
So it's a discount
Yeah, yeah.
situation.
So,
Okay, I mean that's
I'm like,
fair.
that doesn't bother me.
That's fair, especially if you're going to have ads in indie comics, which is weird. I mean, I don't mean it's weird because certain publishers like Image have ads, but they're usually advertising other comics from their lineup, just like Marvel and DC do, kind of everything.
But I do.
But then, to have like an outside, oh, print your comics here, whatever. It is what it is, especially when you're producing a regular series. Like
Right.
when I'm doing what I'm doing, it's basically a fancy zine or
Yeah.
mini comic, in a way. So.
I put in-house ads in my books,
Right,
like
right,
for the next Drake issue, the Spider Squirrel trade paperback, whatever,
right,
whatever, will get people to look at my stuff, then look at Charlie's stuff, or, I've
right,
done ads for Eric Bennett, who does Steel Wolf, just because he helped me out. And just,
right,
like, I know that advertising costs money, and like I could probably charge, but I'm not going to charge my friends to put an ad in a book that
right.
costs
Especially if
me.
you have the space that you can
Yeah,
finagle.
it costs a
And
dollar
it's funny,
to make the book. Like, why would I charge you $50?
yeah. And just for listeners, Charlie is Charlie McElvey of Zion Press and something Squirrel. What's it
Blind
called?
Squirrel Comics.
Blind Squirrel Press. So while in the last week, and I want your help on an idea. I'm going to
Okay.
spring it on you. I sent you a script that I just wrote.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know if you
started
read it
reading it
yet.
today, and I didn't get to finish before I
Okay,
started the show.
that's right. So I won't really talk about that, but it's a new Billy Dogma story. I'll say that much. I haven't written much more of this new Red Hook story that I'm working on. I kind of came up with a teaser idea that I might have mentioned last time that I finessed. The working title is "It Takes a Serial Killer."
Hmm.
I did some artwork for Yaddo here for the cover art for their newsletter. I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but the very first residency at Yaddo was June 7th, 1926.
So 100
And
years.
I'm in the residency that's literally 100 years later. Okay. And the first residency started with a writer and an artist, and they were there for a month. And so we're celebrating that basically while here in some way. And there's going to be the newsletter. There's going to be like benefit, all kinds of stuff. So I'm proud to be a part of that. And then I came up with a plot for something that I might be doing. And I'll say the name of the character. It's a licensed character for a publisher. And I don't really know anything about him. And I may have mentioned him to you, Vito, but I don't know if I mentioned it on the show. And this is where I'm going to ask you a question in a second. So
Okay.
I kind of came up with a plot for an 8-page Zorro story.
Yeah, we
Zorro.
started talking about Zorro a couple of days
We
ago.
might have mentioned it on here before. So I did come up with an idea. And then something happened, and I was like, I really want to pitch this idea from the name alone, but I doubt it would fly ever because I'm sure they're not into this idea. But also, I don't know what the idea is. So
Okay.
here's the title. Ready? Bizarro.
Are we going to have another episode where I just fall over?
Am I wrong?
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant. Bizarro. And so my problem is, Vito, and just spit whatever comes to your mind. Bizarro, which is
right.
what it's making fun of, is basically a Superman character is like the opposite, right? And if he says hello, he means goodbye, that kind of stuff. His planet is square, not circle. Everything is backwards, right? I don't know enough about Zorro to know what would be a backwards Zorro to make Bizarro.
I do know, enough about Zoro that I can probably, weigh in, but I want to check something real quick. So
Uh-huh.
Zorro the word Zorro in Spanish means fox.
Right.
So I'm wondering
Fox.
what Bisoro means. You ready for this?
Okay.
It means cross-eyed in Spanish.
You're kidding.
I'm not.
How do you spell it? How do you
Because
spell it?
auto is I. So cross-eyed would be Bisoro. So
Oh my God. So well, that already makes sense that he'd be cross-eyed, right? Like if he's so
right.
accurate and like surgical with the blade, with his rapier,
Yeah.
that it would make sense that he'd be terrible,
Right.
right? At
Right.
it. So I want to pitch when it's time to send it off, my little Zorro story, which basically spoiler, he fights a golem. Okay. So that's what I came up with. But I really want to say, hey, what about, and then I want to be armed with an idea like these are, but what I might
It's
say to the guy is like, and again, this all comes down to whether it pays well enough to do the job,
right.
But I might say, if you can come up with a story idea, Vito, that's pretty simple and basic, but
I already
fun,
got it.
then maybe we put together a paragraph or two, and maybe I try to pitch that as well, you
I
know?
already got it. It's basically Zorro's sidekick.
Oh,
Like it's a
so it's
little
not.
kid that is cross-eyed that wants to be Zorro when he grows up.
Oh, so it's not so maybe the story is a fan who meets his hero for a second, something happens, and what? Like if he wants to grow up to be the guy, what was he in high school
No,
trying to
he's
be
like a little kid and
Zorro?
like Little Rascals type, like he's made fun of because he's got cross eyes, like, oh
So
yeah,
it's his nickname is
exactly, exactly.
ah
And like he's like, you watch, I'll be the greatest swordsman, when I get older and stuff. And he practices all the time and stuff, and like it's just this
and maybe there's
derogatory.
an instance where he actually pulls it off
Yeah, of course. Like
because of his cross eye.
right.
Like he's able to see something the other kids can't, and maybe they're being attacked by something, and it's like this
It's
little twerp over here
think
actually
about
saves
it.
the day.
Think about it like a Will Eisner spirit story. It doesn't have to have his
Right.
spirit in it, but when he does show up, it's significant. But like now, so you have that as a backdrop. Now think of it as a Little Rascals, Our Gang story, where this little Mexican kid wants to be Zorro so bad, but all of his friends are like, you can't be Zorro, you can't see straight. And
That's right.
they go, you're Bisoro, like, and
That's
like,
great.
and it's just like this thing where this kid has to overcome his disability.
Right.
And maybe he does rescue them from something, you know,
That's what I mean, to me, that's how it's got
you know
to
what I mean?
end,
So
right?
it's just I think that's, again, once we found out that Bisoto means something, like
Right.
it just kind of writes itself. It's like, oh,
It
it's right
totally does.
there.
Well, do me a favor, write up a page of the
Okay.
story. Think of it like an eight pager. And I will, when it's the time has come, I'm going to offer unsolicited this idea as
Hmm.
well. I have to be honest, I don't know, I don't draw kids well. So think of an artist as well, whether it's me or someone who might, because I might sell my story. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And he probably would want, if it's an anthology or something, I get it. I'm still learning about it.
Mhm.
And it doesn't go to waste because it's just a short story,
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah. I'm
mean,
not.
even about it, yeah. So come up with that. And I think that's a, you see, hey, everybody, you just listen to Creativity Hack.
And we
There you
use
go.
IPNet, but not Chat GPT.
Yeah, right.
Um,
That's cool, man. And then finally, do I have another?
I do want to
Uh,
show something that I'm working on currently.
yes,
And like, if you're looking at this, you're like, oh, you already did Golden Guard #1. What are you talking about?
right, right.
So while I was at the convention, I was looking at the pages. This first issue done by Julian Lopez,
Mm,
fantastic artist.
hmm.
Um, and like, I started noticing like these letters are so big. Like
The
compared,
lettering.
you know what I mean? Like the lettering is just so big.
I appreciate that as a going blind
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Same, but I just decided I'm going to remaster the letters to those issues. I think this first Stray trade suffers from the same problem, so I'm remastering the lettering in all of those.
Right.
I have to actually letter #3 because I do have the art for #3, and then hopefully #4 we'll figure something out, and then we're going to start putting these out relatively soon.
Sweet. You have so much stuff, man. It's
I
pretty
do, and
amazing.
I don't get to do all of it because if I could still get back to drawing, which I haven't been able to
Oh,
do,
right.
other stuff,
Right.
like if I can get back to drawing, I'll hopefully be able to draw one of
Yeah.
those things one of these days, but we'll see.
You know, Archie Goodwin had his little editorial, Alan Milgrom. Maybe start with doing like have a half a page or a page editorial for some of your, you're your own Stan Lee,
Yeah.
in a way, where you present the project and you draw yourself and and you letter it, of course. I mean, maybe that's one way to kind of
Yeah.
keep it up kind of thing. I don't know if you have anything more,
I
but
have one thing left, but I want to close out with that. So,
all right, my thing is just like a weird random thing. Sometimes I get friended, often on Instagram or whatever, and half the time I'm like, I don't know you, or you a robot, like what's going on,
yeah.
whatever. And sometimes, like, if it seems legit, I'll click on their profile, and they'll have friended like thousands of people, and maybe half of them have friended them back, but they have zero posts,
Mm.
right? And then I'll notice it seems to be a trend. They'll say something like, "Looking for content creator partner,"
Mm.
and I'm always like, what is this? Have you noticed this at all?
I haven't noticed that specific thing, but like
Looking for content creator partner, and I'm thinking, you mean to make porn with? Like, who are you?
that
Like,
would be my first guess, like an
right?
fans type of like, oh, they
It
want,
might be an OnlyFans, like, and then I get someone to make money with in
yeah, yeah,
the modern ways, kind of a thing. Okay, that's what I suspected. I didn't know if you had more intel on that.
not
So
necessarily. I mean, like just because the word content creator, the phrase is a euphemism sometimes. Not
sure,
necessarily. I mean, we all are
right,
content. We are creating
right,
content as we speak,
right.
so that's not a bad thing. It's just that a lot of the folks that do OnlyFans or whatever the other ones are, um,
Hmm.
they specifically call themselves content creators. Um,
Right, which to me is so bland, and I loathe that term.
but
I
that,
was
but
talking to
think about what they're doing. They're trying to
right.
penetrate different spaces
Hmm.
where if they said what they were actually doing, they couldn't. So by calling it just content creation, they
Right,
are able to penetrate what a euphemism, pardon the pun,
right,
but they're able to, go into spaces where they usually wouldn't, which is a hustle. It's
right.
all a hustle. So good for
It's a
them.
hustle. So the chef here at Yaddo, his name's Tim, great guy. He presents his food like it's his art, which I think is cool.
Mm.
And we've been having discussions, and he's been reading this book called Sapiens. Have you heard of Sapiens? It sounds really interesting and metaphysical, and one of the things he was talking about was he's kind of on a certain diet, and I forget what, like GP1 or something, something where it has a
GLP.
shorthand name. Maybe that's it. Do you know what that is?
It's something to do with Ozempic and all the weight loss
It's
drugs.
like that, but it's not. And he said something about how it's a hunger suppressant in some ways,
Yeah,
but that's not always the best way to live, because then if you're just not hungry, you're not eating, you're not fueling yourself. And he
right.
said, but this is the thing about that something about how humankind is smarter than it ever was before mentally, but the body is still a hunter-gatherer.
Mm,
Okay. So like our bodies haven't caught up to our minds in a lot of ways.
yeah,
And he was saying how what normally when you're hungry, you have to go out and hunt for food and kill it and then make it, usually. I mean, that was the way it used to be.
mhm,
He said now we have food everywhere anytime you want, basically, and I'm not talking about the homeless and the hungry, but
yeah,
in general. The idea is that if you're bored, what's the first thing you want to do is open up the fridge and see what's in the fridge or something, like,
right.
because or you're in the middle of something, or you stop, your mind drifts over to food often. And he said that there was like so many different Japanese sayings, and he told me one last night, translated roughly was, eating because your mouth is lonely.
Ooh, love it.
So I love that
That
term.
explains so much about my life. Yeah,
All right, so
it's my mouth that's lonely. Let's go with
that's
that.
your mouth is lonely, that's all.
So, so I did want to mention that today, the day that we're recording, is June 11th. Do you know what the significance of June 11th is, Dean?
No.
June 11th, I call it Goodfellas Day, or you could call it Billy Bats Day. Now, do you know why I'm calling it that?
All right, time out. In Goodfellas, is Billy Bats the guy they beat up in the bar
Yes.
for fucking with he's kind of a dick. You know,
Yeah,
he's old mafia type stuff, and then
yeah,
he
Joe
gets
Pesci.
kills Billy Bats. Yeah,
Right.
played by I forget his name, great actor.
Oh, Frank Vincent. Frank Vincent was a
Frank
friend of my
Vincent.
stepdad's, actually. Like
Really?
same section,
So
Brooklyn.
why is it Billy Bats Day?
Because on June 7th, 1970, Billy Bats walked into Henry Hill's club and was and insulted Tommy DeSimone, or I forget the real name.
So you're saying June 11th, June
Yes,
11th, not 7th. Okay,
June
June
11th,
11th,
1970.
Queens, New York.
Walked into the club and then never walked out.
Never walk back out. That's
Yep.
such a great scene. It's a terrifying scene because it establishes the attitude of these people, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious, man.
I, I
Wow.
I will always commemorate June 11th, 1970, mostly because I do love the movie, but also
Yeah.
because it's such a niche thing to actually,
Yep.
like, like they make all these stupid holidays anymore, like National Donut Day, which cool,
Yeah.
get a free donut at Dunkin' Donuts. I don't sweat the technique, but
Right.
I will have Goodfellas Day. I
Oh,
will
that's
have
great.
Steely Dan Day, which is May 19th.
Because his birthday or something, or
No, Steely Dan had a song called Hey 19. Sounds like May 19. So May
oh,
Steely Dan.
funny. Look at you, man.
And then I
That's
have
hilarious.
then there's a Dolly Parton Day too that I forget the actual date.
Really.
Yeah.
Look at you,
So
man. I love it.
I
Yeah,
love
well,
all
I want to see your calendar.
that. On my calendar back there, it says on my birthday, which is next Tuesday,
Yep.
Vito is 53. And then in parentheses underneath, I wrote, no, I'm not.
No, I'm not.
And and Michelle's like, why did you write that? And I was like, because technically I'm starting my 54th year, so I'll start referring to myself.
Look at you being all.
Speaking
Oh, there
of
she
my lovely
is.
wife,
Hello.
Having a heat stroke.
she's having a heat stroke.
Oh my God. Is it air conditioned in that room at all? At least my room's air
Yeah,
conditioned. This
but I'm
room is.
outside shoveling
Oh no.
three
Oh,
tons of
well,
topsoil.
you look hot, literally.
I'm disgustingly hot. I'm shoveling 3 tons of topsoil around our pool to put
Cool.
mulch around it.
Nice.
That's where I'm
Okay.
heading right after we are done recording. I'm going to be
Is
going.
it a kiddie pool or like an actual
No,
pool?
it's 5 foot pool
What?
by 32.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
We
enormous.
we we have a pool at Yaddo that I'm praying will be available today or tomorrow. Please, God, please. We need a pool. So, all right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up here, huh?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Thank you everybody for joining us for Two Boys, One Plate.
Girl.
One girl. Don't forget, you can donate to the show by hitting the link below. You can also buy one of our t-shirts. All those proceeds go towards the show. Our next show, I think, Dean, you're appearing somewhere relatively soon before Baltimore, no?
No, no, no.
August?
You mean July 11th? I'll be at IC3 in Jacksonville, Florida.
There we go. Okay.
There you go.
So look
Yep.
out for that. And Eternal
Stay
Con.
safe.
Eternal Con is in Long Island on the 11th and 12th of July. I might stop by on the 12th just to check it out and, just looking. It's
Cool.
because I'll be in New York
I want to stay safe.
from July 10th to July 21st. So
Oh, we will hang.
you and I will hang again. Go ahead. What did you say?
Hey, one thing for this lovely audience. If you want to make a little boy's dreams come true, he will be 11 years old on the 25th of June. It's our son, James.
Mm.
He really wants to be a YouTuber. And his handle is Meatball Man. Go ahead and subscribe to him. He just puts like little videos up. He's so cute, so adorable.
They're funny.
They're funny. He has ADHD and autism and OCD, and I think he has like 65 followers right now, and he's so excited to just keep getting new followers,
Yeah,
new content
yeah.
out. And I literally, I mean, his heart is so big. He just cries whenever he gets a new follower. It's
He
so adorable.
Oh,
he did a video on the last day of school from the school bus,
Yeah.
which was just his legs going, last day of school, I guess.
Like
that's
he's
like an
trying
Adrian
to
Tomine
find,
comic.
Mhm.
Sorry.
yeah, and he's trying to find his place in the world. So, he's a little lost off onto the side. He only has a few real life friends.
What's it called?
Meatball Man.
Uh, on YouTube, Meatball Man on
Mhm.
Mhm.
YouTube. Got it.
And it's a
Okay.
meatball
It's a
for a logo.
meatball logo.
Yep.
It's Meatball
Okay.
Man.
All
And
right.
just come on there and just follow him. You don't need to like watch all the videos and all that, but follow him and he would be so, so happy.
Yeah, he's looking for
Yeah.
100
Yeah.
followers
He's looking for
before.
a
I'll do mine right now. Right
thank
All
after
right.
we get
you.
off.
All
You
right.
know.
Guys, have a great week.
Mwah.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everybody.
Thank
And
you.
don't forget, it is still Pride Month. So
Oh,
make sure to support your local LGBTQIA comic book creators, comic book stores that support LGBTQIA folks. They're very few and far between, but you'll find them. They'll have the rainbow flag in the middle of the store. So we want to, is that on my head? Oh, I thought it was like going to stick in my head. But like, we want to support the people that support us. So find your local comic store, find your local gay creators, support these folks and help them out. These folks deal with visibility. Like, they don't feel like they're visible. So let's make them visible, especially this month. Like let's support them all. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Dean. Can't wait for you to get back from whatever Saratoga hell you're in.
I'm not in hell, my friend.
So we can, but thank
This
you
is kind of
everyone.
like heaven.
Next
Thanks, Vito.
next week, episode 75.
Woo! Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, episode 75 next week.
Oh boy. Okay. Hmm.
There
Hmm. We'll have to figure that one out.
we
Okay.
go. All right, good night, everybody.